Welcome back to Brothers in Boots. My name is Mike.
My name is Jeff.
And today we have part 2 of Tim's boot collection. If you have not yet, please like, comment, subscribe. And we'll start with Jeff. What are you drinking?
This is a Nulu Bastard Mix. I kept some of the pours from the last Nulu pick that we went. Brought them home with me. Don't tell anybody. Might not be legal.
For those who don't know what he means.
Who knows what it is?
Yeah.
It's like it might be like 12 different barrels that I mixed together.
Yep. For those who don't know, just like with the Magnus pick that he has, that is when you do a barrel pick, they put a bunch of barrels out in front of you. Jeff is taking all that's left over from each of that was not drank and pouring it into a bottle and taking it home. So he's mixing everything that they tried that day. What was a little bit left? Because when they do the picks, they pour so much out. Obviously, not everyone drinks all of it. He's not taking what's in people's glasses. Obviously, he's taking what's left of what wasn't poured in people's glasses. So, for those who don't know.
And you don't want to kill your palate. You want to pick the best barrels possible. So you're best not to be drinking every little bit that they put in your glass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the stuff you like of. And then I have a fairly small pour today, but we talked about this in the previous one, but this is the red label we were talking about. This is the OESK. So this is the 50% 7 to 9 year version of the pick that Jeff had, which was a 10-year. This is what you can find on a lot of shelves right now, actually. And there's also an OESO and an OESF version of this. And then there is a black OESV. That a lot of times get bundled with these. That's separate from the usual gold label that you'd see in the regular store shelf. It's just I don't remember which, OVSB maybe? I can't remember. There's a regular one that's slightly different than what you would get with these red and black labels. So, Bourbon Talk ends at 2:21 for the guy. Helping you out, buddy. So, all right, Tim's collection, right? So last time we stopped with boot number 10, so now we're on boot number 11 of 10's collection. And this is going to start with a John Lofgren and a John Washington Wabash, which is the John Lofgren engineer, in Shinky or dark brown Shinky horsebutt. I don't think they actually have a dark brown color. I do believe this particular color is known as cognac, actually. There's a red brown and a cognac. And this brown looks very similar to the brown that Flora is making me a pair out of, which was just called cognac from Rocky Mountain. Tons of honeycombing, at least in the one boot.
Yeah, my eyes went straight to that.
Yeah.
The left shaft.
So these seem to fit him quite well. Which makes sense because he's got a lot of derby dress boots, and this is done off a derby last, not off an actual boot last. And it's the 110 last. He does make a note that there is not a lot of spare leather for resoles. You are correct, but luckily this is a Goodyear welted boot, so that welt can be replaced. It's not like stitched down where it has to be rebuilt. And then he asked a question about the pull loop on this. So Lofgren does an interesting pull loop. Let me see if I can get a picture of it here where he's got like a close-up. So Lofgren doesn't do a true pull loop, so you can't actually pull on it. It's done in a backstay piece that's supposed to have a pull loop, but as you can tell, it's just a little bit of a bump here. You can't actually grab on it. So that is just some kind of weird design that he chose to do. There's no functionality to that at all. A backstay cover would be fine. He's looped it over to help protect the backstay cover and just provided no extra leather for a loop. That's purely weird. An aesthetic choice, because on a 10-inch engineer like this, it is not going to get caught in your pants. On a 6-inch engineer, I'd 100% understand why you do something like this. On a 10-inch, not a clue. Purely decorative. And honestly,
even in that situation, you could do one that just went up high enough to get a finger into.
Correct. Well, another thing you could do, let's see if I get to the back of this. Another option here is adding where you could put your finger back here, where like you do a stitch line here, and there's space for you to put your finger here. That you could do it decoratively and not have it stick out like that. Yeah, there are other options. Yes, this is purely decorative. And it's also, my guess is they had a pattern that needed a pull loop. And this was their way of not needing to fix issues with the backstay without having to do that. So, to answer your question on that. So it is decorative. There's no structure to it. It's decorative. It was to not have to fix the pattern. So, anyway.
Bright counter in dark.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is so all the darker shinky covers kind of suffer from this because it is tough to make one pair of boots out of a horse rump, especially with a upper like this. Most likely your uppers and your vamps are not going to be pulled from the same horse rump. The brown colors they tend to make out of the smaller rumps, so not the 6 square foot rumps like the black and the blue. They tend to be like 3 square foot. So as you can already tell in the pictures, the vamps and the uppers are not the same rump. The uppers are the same rump and the vamps are the same rump. And that's the reason why one has honeycombing and one doesn't, is you'd have to use multiple rumps to make sure honeycombing existed evenly throughout the entire boot. As you can tell, he does wear these quite a bit because he's wore through the decorative stitch that Lofgren does on the bottom. It is a Goodyear welted boot. These actually look quite a bit better than some of the other ones that Lofgren has out. Like, usually Lofgren has a lot of like weird anomalies in the outsole stitch. These actually look really good so far. From the top and bottom, actually. Like I said, shinky, any of the shinky browns are stunning. Even the burgundy, which is more of a brown. I don't know if it's the red content they put in or what, but shinky does brown so well. And their brown is also, or their burgundy is also a color that if you don't like browns and you want that more purple or Merlot kind of burgundy, this is not the company to get burgundy from because they are on the brown spectrum. Toes look a little different. Their shaping looks a little bit off. But overall, short of the lack of contour to the shaft, which kind of luxury, like there should be a little more contour than this to the heel, but short of that, as long as they fit and you don't have problems with them, because a lot of people have trouble getting their feet into the correct size ones, and I could tell you got a little bit of a gloss upper going on. That's why you got so many flexes in it. They look like a good pair of boots. You got lucky. I've seen some of these, especially in this dark brown shinky, that like some of the details did not work out well in, and this pair of the details look like they actually lined up pretty well overall. I'm not seeing anything that sticks out to me short of the toes not being quite exactly the same shape. This pair looks pretty good. Maybe a slight twist in the upper lasting on this one, on this right boot, but nothing out of whack.
Great boots. Glad you like them. Glad they fit well. It is harder to get an engineer to fit well, and I assume you did not go through any kind of fitting, Lofgren. So
I think you can send measurements to Standard and Strange, but it's stock sizes. They don't make adjustments to it. So, yeah, but these are standard sizes, and these are actually he did not give me the size on these. He only gave me the last. But yes, they're only stock sizes. So, but yeah, I do like the fact that Lofgren uses V-bar. That is one of my favorite Vibram. If I have to pick a Vibram outsole, that's the one I'm picking. So,
and he uses the V-bar heel.
Yeah,
so
the correct heel, correct. And that's not common. A lot of people use the quad bog heel. Like I feel like Frank's is one of the very few of the P&W that actually use the V-bar heel. Almost all the rest of them use the quad bog one, which also tends to get the heel height balancing off because it's the incorrect thickness. Sorry. Sidebar. Let's not talk about the brands. Next, we have another Viberg. So this is actually, I didn't even know they made Chelsea. So this is a Viberg Chelsea. It's also 360 degrees stitched. And it's not a stitch down. Huh. I didn't realize Viberg did not stitch down. Yeah, so this is Division Road. This is CF Stead Chestnut Phoenix. I've not heard of that leather before, but this is definitely some kind of oil tanned. It's not a suede. That's a little shocking. The leather is supposedly waterproof. I don't believe that shit. It is a 2030 last. He says they feel loose over the instep. We can tell. That giant divot definitely tells us it's loose over the instep. He wears thicker socks with these. He does not like the fit. This is a 9E. Probably should have gone a 9D. His usual socks he wears with his other boots, no go, but it is okay with thicker socks. I did notice it's got a lug sole, which is strange. He's not a fan of that, but he got these for winter. He does like the convenience of Chelsea since he stopped wearing any type of regular tennis shoe 10 years ago. He's always had bloodstones, and so this was kind of like his way of trying to replace his bloodstones with something nicer. Interestingly enough, like I said, I've never seen Viberg not do stitch down. This is 360, what I've got to assume to be Goodyear welted. It is a split reverse welt. They did do pinking on it, which is just clearly an aesthetic choice. One thing I will say, they did do Chelsea right. Chelsea's traditionally the rear of the heel where the backstay is should be slightly taller than the vamp to be a little bit of a shoehorn to help guide your foot in correctly. That is the correct way of doing a Chelsea. Even like my bootines, you'll see there are cuts slightly so that the back is a little longer than the front, and that's just to naturally guide your foot in. So that's a nice touch. Somewhat color matching goring, I do think that's a nice touch. The lug sole is a strange choice, especially with pinking welt. I would have expected that one to be a day night of all things, right? Am I crazy to think that?
I don't think you're crazy at all. I mean, I like that it is kept inside of the stitches. But yeah, that seems an odd choice.
Yeah. I do notice on this one they leave quite a bit more excess that they don't leave on their stitch down. You can especially see that from the bottom. Yeah, this is an interesting leather. I didn't know this leather existed. The toes match here, shockingly enough. I know of a couple surface. So when we call surface layer leathers, we mean like smooth or just grain, where they've split the grain out for the suede layer. So like their Dragon's Fire, which is this really cool hide they do that only goes up to like 3.5 ounces. It usually has bags made out of it that I still think would make a cool looking pair of boots, is what's left of a lot of the Rambler and Waxy Mohawk split. This is clearly a leftover of one of the splits, but I don't recognize this oil tan leather at all. Now, to be fair, CF Stead makes like 18 different lines of leather. So, just for anyone who's not aware, like CF Stead is a very, very large leather producer. But they don't waste a lot of leather. But I am definitely not familiar with this one.
I am loving this construction. I've been looking at doing a 360 stitch down and wondering how it's going to come out looking, whether they're going to be able to get it close enough that it doesn't look clunky. And if it looks anything like this, I'm going to be real happy.
I don't think this is stitched down. This right here looks like it's some kind of welted. I don't know what kind though, because that's a stitch down outsole stitch. But like, look at the gap right here. This has got to be some kind of welting. I'm just not sure what kind, because you can see the gap in the toe.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
It looks.
mean,
It looks Norwegian.
Yeah, it's a split reverse welt, so it's some kind of Norwegian, but it's not like a Norwegian where it's going through the upper. I don't know what it's doing. My guess is it's some kind of maybe Goodyear welt, or probably Goodyear welt, with the welt piece just being a split reverse welt with that pinking. But I mean, I could be wrong on that too.
Regardless, I think it looks really nice. I hope mine look that nice. The other note that I've got, and this will help him with keeping Canadian, I think he should be ordering, going to Bob Henderson's website and ordering himself some leather inserts from him to put in here.
Oh, that's a good point.
Leather inserts can easily swallow a width. And it looks like in this one that he might be able to swallow a width and fix how it's fitting him. Make everything fit tighter without having to do the thicker socks.
Yeah, I don't have any of them in here, but for those of you that haven't seen them, Bob Henderson is a maker out of British Columbia. He does make boots, but he also makes half sole and full sole arched insoles, kind of like the Nix Delta Arch. He does a completely different style where there's a cork layer. He does instead of the like square piece that would be in the bottoming construction, it's kind of a trapezoidal piece, which makes a little bit more sense with an insole insert piece. And he does something quite a bit different where he has two different thicknesses of arch. He has a thin and a thick that are 2 millimeters different size. I'm gonna bring the half soles up here so you guys can see them.
I put a picture in chat.
Yep. So here is the half soles, but he does have a full sole version too, and this is the thicker one with the thicker piece. But as you can see, there's a cork layer in the heel. He does a thick trapezoidal arch piece. And I've got these in my Westco tan Latigos, and I've got the half soles in my Brian the Bootmaker Underdogs and Natural Horse Chrome XL. And I love these. I actually like these more than I like the Nix Delta Arch, to be entirely honest.
If you feel like you have the toe room, do the full length. You feel like it's going to put your toes too close to the top,
do the half.
Then choose the half one.
Yep. And that'll give you some arch in your boots as well. And like I said, it's a nice, like that trapezoidal piece is kind of nice, because where the straight piece needs a little bit more break in, which makes sense when it's between multiple layers of your insole, right? But for the insert piece, it doesn't make quite as much sense to have to break that in. That trapezoidal piece feels the gap of your arch a little bit better, because you're not breaking in multiple layers of leather. It's kind of filling it in. So you're still going to break it in some, but it kind of feels the void a little bit more. Whereas if that arch piece was in between multiple layers of the bottom, your insole piece already does that for you, right? So the trapezoidal piece makes more sense. It's adjustable because he does it in two different lengths, or two different thicknesses, sorry. And overall, I feel like the Nix ones might be a little too robust for an insole insert. Bob's make more sense, and they kind of fit in place a little bit better. The only one thing I will say is Bob expected people to glue them in, so he puts the smooth side down. If you are not going to glue them in, you need to rough them up with sandpaper or they're going to squeak. That's the one call out. And that was feedback I gave Bob after I got mine, so he might start making them with the fuzzy side down, because he thought people were going to glue them in. And to be fair, in his defense, he thought people were going to glue them in. If you glued them in fuzzy side down, you're not getting them out. He put the smooth side down so you actually had an opportunity to break the seal on them, so that adhesive wouldn't literally, but basically a permanent addition, more or less.
Once you decide that you like it, if you do the half, you probably do want to glue it down.
Yep.
Halves, the problem that with a half is that it is harder for it to keep it in place where you want it to. When you do the full length, it's easier for it to stay in place without having to glue it. But you might not have the toe room.
Yep.
It is going to take up room for your toes.
I have found with my half-sole Delta arches and my half-sole bobs, once they get a certain shape, they'll kind of hold in place. You might just have to tap them down as you first put them in. They might slide forward a little bit. I haven't had any need of gluing them in personally, but to also be fair, there for a while, I was moving them from boot to boot. Like I was moving them between boots that were not high arch boots. Now I'm at the point I have a pair in all of them. I probably could glue them down. So that's something else to also think about if you go down that kind of path. But yeah, interesting leather. This is not one I've ever heard of. So, but on this note, he has more than one pair of these Vibergs actually. So this is sap waxed kudu. This one also looks like it's some kind of Goodyear welt. Instead of a pinking split reverse welt, this one is just a regular split reverse welt. Actually, that's hard to tell. It might be a regular storm welt, but it could be a split reverse welt. I can't quite tell with that darker color. But this is a kudu, which, once again, Stead is known for. Anyone that's had these kudus, these are actually kind of tough as fucking nails. Like, for a softer leather, their kudu is tough. Like, you could do work boot shit in kudu, no problem. This one is a day-night, which makes so much more sense. The other one should be a day-night too.
Or Dr. Soul.
Well, I don't
Which
think
we haven't seen yet.
I don't think Viberg does Dr. Souls at all.
They did.
I don't think so. If they did, it's very recent. But these are a 2024 purchase. This is also a slightly different last. So the last one we saw was the 2030 last. Unless it's a typo, this is in the 2050 last, which I guess has a sleeker toe. A little smaller, firm, but not tight or uncomfortable. And it makes sense because you notice they don't crink in near as bad on the instep. So these definitely fit a little bit better.
Great looking boots.
Yeah, kudu's,
always love kudu.
Kudu's the shit. Like, we need to see more kudu in the world. I don't remember the other backstay being like that. Did we just miss that? Oh yeah, no, we just missed it. This one just looks a little bit more rolled because of the three-dimensional leather. It looked more like it had like a binding in between. It's just because the leather's a little more three-dimensional. This is also 360, but yeah, cool deal. Definitely a fan of kudu. Definitely down for more kudu in the world. And this is, like I said, this is meant to replace a pair of RM Williams that he had. And he went down a half size this time because of the other Chelsea sizing, which definitely shows. Like I said, man, get you some Bob's inserts. They're the way to go. Next, he has something near and dear to our heart. This is a pair of John Lofgren monkey boots in Shinky Horsebutt Timber. This color is actually red-brown. I know they call it timber in Japan, but it's red-brown. Just like brown Chrome XL is also called timber in Japan for whatever reason. This is a more traditional monkey last. As you can tell, one toe definitely has way more honeycombing than the other. It is a very flat monkey last, which is generally considered kind of traditional. One thing I will say, they do use the nice like P&W style studs in the John Lofgrens when they do use speed hooks instead of the kind of pot metal bendy style. It is a actual storm welt. This is Goodyear welted. It is a traditional monkey, so not like the P&W monkey where they're stitching in front of the toe. This is the 140 last. This is from a shop called Free Note Cloth. He's not a big fan of monkey boots, but since these entered his life, he is a much bigger fan. He really likes them, especially the clean vamp and the lack of any horizontal stitch. This is another Lofgren last that fits him well. Apparently, there's a black version of this boot. He's not buying another black boot, but if they make another brown, he might be in trouble. One thing that he does not like is the speed hooks are a little sharp. I guess the edges of these might be a little sharpened. He wouldn't expect that as the price. I guess they've kind of cut his laces up a little bit. A file is your friend, my man. You can do a little bit of file work and easily fix any kind of sharp speed hooks. One thing
Do
that
you like the monkeys?
yeah, monkeys
They grow on you, man. They grow on you.
monkeys fix like every problem with fit that ever existed too. Like if you're like in between sizes, monkeys will solve all your problems. Like enough so that one of our buddies, Art, has kind of basically got rid of all of his collection that are not monkeys. Like if you notice all the stuff Art has for sale, you notice he hasn't sold a single pair of monkey boots.
I actually did not notice that.
Yeah, if you go look, he's not selling anything that's monkeys. Pretty much everything that's for sale is a cap toe or a non-monkey boot.
They grow on you, man. I mean, I understand when people say they don't like the looks of them, but it seems like at least 7 out of every 10 people that says that they don't like monkeys.
Once they buy one, they change their mind.
Within a year, oh, no, I like monkeys. They're great.
Yep. 100%. 100% agree with that statement. One thing I will say that I really like about this model is like it's got some of the like curvy backstay and stuff and blah blah blah. This swept top looks fucking cool. Like this kind of curved top to it. Like if nothing else about this sticks out to you, that curved top should. It is
Wolverine 1000.
Yeah, it's got a Wolverine. It's got a Wolverine style backstay. It's got a Wolverine style curve to the top. This is a full V-bar, which I'm a fan of. Half-sole V-bar would be better, but you know what? And this is the corked brown V-bar, which wears a lot better than the traditional rubber. It is an internal heel counter cover. I'm a big fan of the speed hooks, even though you say the sharp. This one's executed well. One of the crappiest things about monkeys is getting even toe shapes, and uppers that line up are very hard. These are consistently the same. Like the interior is a little farther forward than the exterior, but you notice they're the same on both. So they're at least consistent.
As small as the vamp, as small as the visible vamp area is, it is very on display.
Yes. And then the backstay on these looks fucking cool. Like it's very Wolverine 1000 mile, but it looks fucking cool.
I love them. That's a cool looking backstay.
Yeah.
Everything about this was executed wonderfully.
I just the two things. The last I don't care for, and then they about blew through the stitches right here. If you look right here, there's no meat left on that outsole stitch. Someone with the stitcher got a little too close with the sander.
It's not really fair. I mean, Lofgren doesn't have a good last at all.
That is true. I agree with the statement. But like I said, this last could be nicer, and like I said, this outsole stitch could be nicer too. That's going to be a busted outsole stitch. Like these will not be able to be resold. They're going to be rewelted. So. But short of that, I like everything else picked about them besides the last and that one mistake there. Do really like that backstay. That backstay is fucking sexy.
Yeah, it is.
It's also one of the few times that I think an internal heel counter cover makes sense when you're going to do something like this. Like this is something you see a lot in creosote boots. A lot of his where he'll use Gabbard will use a little bit more decorative backstay if he's going to use a heel counter cover. Internal heel counter cover versus an external.
I like an internal for a dress boot. That's like it. Or for more than 9 times out of 10, I do not like a hidden.
I do when you're going to do something like this though. Like, cause it clearly isn't a pair of dress boots, even though they're a little bit dressier. But if you're going to do like a fancy over the top backstay cover like this, I think it is necessary. So I don't think this would look as cool if it was an external one.
Totally agree.
So, I think I covered all his points on that one. Alrighty, here's where we're going to get a little away from the Lofgren. So this is the real McCoy's Buco. There's some history to this. Dale has told this history a little bit on his channel, but Rolling Dub Trio and the real McCoys used the same factory as Lofgren, and they were actually doing it through Lofgren until they stopped paying bills. And there was a big history of that. You could go look that up or actually ask Lofgren himself. He's very open about this, and he'll tell you everything you need to know. The reason Dale knows it is he did a video on it saying, man, these look a lot like Lofgren's, and Lofgren reached out to him and said, yeah, here's the story on it. So reach out to John Lofgren, he'll tell you. The reason these look like Lofgren's and they have a very similar last is because they're made in the same factory. And most likely Lofgren helped commission these at some point in time.
Beautiful boots.
These are Shinky Horsehide, T-Core Shinky Horsehide. He bought these in person from the shop Lost and Found, which we did see earlier. These are size 10, true to size. These are his most expensive pairs, and he hopes that these stay his most expensive pairs because the diminishing returns versus something unique is not adding up. He can't find the right words to describe it, but he considers them to be tanks that are also oddly delicate at the same time. He says there's some sort of mystic something or another going on here, and I can see what he means. Because it's a T-core leather and because it's a shiny black leather, it seems like these should be delicate. And they probably are actually kind of delicate, especially because this is a very light T-core. You can tell how natural the edge is here. This is a very, very light mill dye process of T-coring, which is what they do on a lot of shell cordovans where the color is very, very surface level. And because of the kind of way they did it, these look tanky, big, and beefy, but if you look at the cat's paw and stuff, they're not. But
I love that he found a cat's paw half sole.
Yeah, this is the original. This is the true cat's paw reproductions, and so this is from Shop Lost and Found. So I bet you money this came from the Built Right factory before Viberg closed it. I do love that they actually did the 2 rivets. Like besides Brian, the bootmaker, nobody does the rivets anymore, which is very common with these older Built Right cat's paw half soles. The only thing that I see kind of shocking is both the belts don't have very many belt holes in them, which is a little weird. Like, you notice there's only 3 right here on the... Yeah, I mean, it's for decoration anyway. They're pirate boots. Only if your engineers are not made to measure, like 100% made to measure, that belt is entirely decorative. So for those that don't know, and I'm going to bring our faces up here for a minute. For those that don't know, there is something in cowboy mock-ups called a upper saddle. And what they do is they take the upper pattern that they made from you and wrap it around the last. That last has between a 1/2 inch and 1 inch gap above your instep. That gap is specifically there so that you have enough space for your heel and instep to clear into the boot. In a completely made to measure that's at correct between 1 inch and 1/2 inch, that belt can close that gap and be perfect. Anything that's not made to measure, that belt don't do shit. By the time it covers enough to clear that gap, because once again, that saddle setup has a perfect pass-through line geometry setup based on a bunch of different measurements. Like if you've ever had to do the ball, waist, short heel, long heel, regular heel, 5, 7, 10, they can get the pass-through geometry from that. If you haven't, if some of those measurements sound foreign, they're not doing enough to figure out that pass-through geometry. That belt, to close enough of that, is going to create this really nasty ripple or like big bulge where it creates a deep in gap and a big bulge out that looks like shit. So it's just for decoration, realistically. Like you were letting the waist portion hold your foot in place, and the waist pushes your heel back into the heel cup, essentially. That's the reality.
If you were to tighten that strap enough to do anything, it's going to bunch up the leather in a way that it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, like it's going to look like this kilty edge right here where it makes a really nasty bunch like that, which in a kilty makes sense. You do not want this visible on your engineer. And that bunch is actually probably going to be worse than that because that kilty's thin. That kilty is I think that's 4.5 ounce on that kilty. Imagine that same like bunch there, except 7 ounce, right? It's going to look really bad.
More importantly, it can create a hot spot.
No, it could probably create 2 hot spots, to be entirely honest. So, But like I said, these are very cool. You got some pretty good shinky out of this. It doesn't have any honeycombing, but it is a nice uniform pair of shinky. And like I said, that mill die is a very light mill die. So yes, we understand perfectly what you mean about it. They look like tanks, but they're not, because correct, you wear them like tanks, they are going to look like poopy. Straight up. And yes, I said poopy. I think it's funnier in this context. You can see the stamp from the actual manufacturing company on the inside, and then the actual genuine horsehide acid resistance. So, but yeah, real McCoys. These are the Buco model and black shinky horsehide. So, also because it's shinky horsehide and not shinky horse rump, they are going to be a little bit thinner than regular horse rump. So, shinky horse hide tends to come in about 4.5 ounces or so, versus horse rump that comes in between 6.5 and 8.5 ounces. And just from the pictures, the horse hide does look a little bit thinner, because that does look to be lined too. But you can tell by this little flap right here, that's definitely like a solid 4.5, maybe 5 ounce at most. You can tell it from the belts too. So, still cool though. Real McCoy is, like I said, they're really known for their jacket manufacturing, and like I said, most likely Lofgren, based on the back stay pattern and stuff. Lofgren most likely made these for the real McCoys through the factory he uses. Okay, next, as you can see on the screen, we have some Truman Uplands and Sand Teton Stag. So this is actual stag. Sand Teton Stag. I can't remember if this is Galoon or CF Stead. I think this is the Galoon Whitetail Stag, if I remember right. So this is from Galoon, which we haven't seen any of yet in any collections. I have some Galoon coming from a test hide that Frank's got, that I did a rebuild on a pair. Looks pretty good. But the way Galoon sells does make it hard for small manufacturing. They sell A and Bs together. You have to pay a pretty hefty upcharge to get just A grade hides, which make it hard for people to do small runs. This is Galoon Whitetail Deer, unstructured toe, no pull loop. Eugene Soul is their is Eugene, Oregon is what it's labeled after. It's just this cross hatch pattern that's on there. He was on the fence about it, but he's very happy he chose it. He loves the character more than Rambler. I don't know if I agree 100% with that, but I will say this has a lot of character, but I love me some fucking Rambler, as Jeff could say. So I'm going to have to call some slight blasphemy there. He does say these have excessive heel squeak. He's had Trumans before that he sold in the past, but the left one sounds like an old rocking chair when he walks. The internet says to oil them. That will not help your problem, my friend. The only thing that will stop squeaking is roughing it up. Most likely a waxed surface is touching a smooth surface. And just kind of looking at the inside of these, it looks like the rough out is very finished, so that's going to make it even worse. He said he tried to open offset twice. It didn't help. He stopped because it kept dumping product in there and it was just discoloring it. 100%. As I said, you got to rough surfaces up. Oiling will not solve your problem here. BiB posted a heel squeak video the same day we typed this out. I do lean forward to wear it down, but nowhere near the 12 hours that Mike mentioned. I'll get there. Yeah, 100%. You're not going to oil your way out of this. I didn't catch that comment before. I was still reading through it when I came across that, but yeah. Yes, the squeak will eventually go away as it roughs itself up enough, but what you could also run into is some burnishing. Just kind of work at it. It should hopefully stop, especially as it dries itself out enough. And with this being like a waxed leather, it's going to have quite a bit of extra oil in it. I covered everything there. Apparently he has had 4 6-inch Trumans in the past, and this 8-inch is the only one that he's had this squeak problem in, and it appears to only be in the left boot. But I mean, overall, I didn't say which last this was. No, it's 79 last. Okay, so this is not their newer last. It's one of their older ones. I mean, short of the fact that they're flat, the Truman, the 79, I think it's the 21 and the 19 or whatever, they're pretty nice lasts. They're just flat as fuck. So if you can get past the flat as fuck part, great. Bob Henderson has your solution to this. He sells these half soles and full soles that'll solve that problem. Truman does go up to double E, so you can go wider to be able to accommodate that. I don't have any experience with this Eugene sole. I will say that I have seen some proprietary creosote soles made by a company out of Denver that do have a more architectural kind of pattern like this on the bottom that grip really fucking well. So these might be grippy. You didn't hear that from me. I did not say that here. It's a figment of your imagination. I do... Actually, I'm not 100% positive now that I say that. It looks white from the top. I don't know if they used yellow on the bottom or you just locked in a lot of grass. I'm going to say that they did something cool and did yellow on the bottom, because I do think it kind of goes with the stag on top. But just in case you walked in grass, I did say it aloud before you corrected me. But it's a cool outsole. It's better than the Ridgeway. It's not a mini lug. Fuck the mini lug. Just like fuck the Ridgeway. I like the pattern looks cool. If it wasn't so flat, I'd be down. I've had Trumans before. It's not wide enough. I want arch, or at least the ability to add an insole in, and I want wider. And Truman just doesn't have that. But I've given Truman a shot with a Coach Rambler and Black Burgundy Rambler. And as much as I didn't want to sell either of those boots, they just didn't fit. Like on the Coach Rambler, I was like I went from a 6.5 all the way up to an 8 double E, and I was still hanging over the side by like 1/4 of an inch. I liked them a lot. I just couldn't make it work.
You think for the Vamp they just stretched all the character out of it, or do you think they purposely picked part of the hide with less personality?
So looking at it, I think the personality's there. I think that just when the machine stretched it, I think a lot of what you're seeing here that looks like personality is actually wax finish and not personality. I think these scratches, like these scars right here and right here, are actual scars from the deer. I think a lot of what looks like character here, like this is a scar right there, but I think a lot of this is actually just wax finish. Looking at it, like personally, just kind of looking through the pictures, I think it just stretched out the wax finish. I don't think this is character on a lot of this. I think it's wax finish cracking. Kind of the same way that Dublin and Badalassi Carlo waxy crack on their finish. So I don't think it's overstretched. I think that's just the wax finish cracking, personally. Like this right here is a deer scar. That is just a clump of wax finish. I mean, there's clearly seems to be some uniformity differences in it, like because this is character there, that's character there, this is wax finish, that's wax finish. So there might be like maybe Galoon isn't getting the wax finish quite as uniform, or maybe Truman isn't pulling it quite as uniform. I don't believe that though, because the toes look so similar that I feel like Truman's got to be pulling it pretty uniform. Like that's some of the most uniform toes we've seen in this collection. So like I feel like that just saying aloud already has to be a lie. So I think it's just a non-uniformity of the wax finish, to be entirely honest. Now I worry because if I remember right, I think Dale reviewed a pair of these, and this stag is very, very soft. So these might be a little too light on the temper scale. So you'll have to let us know, Tim, on that one. What do you think of the temper of these? I mean, I do like the backstay. I think that, like I said, Truman does that kind of 1,000-mile curved backstay. They do the Packer style external counter cover. I like the fact that Truman keeps the stitching down to a minimum. Once again, tons of stitches do not make your boot stronger if your stitching looks like a fucking cross-eyed crackhead did it. Like, let's be honest. And I'm going to bring us up to screen for effect. Like, when your stitching's all over the fucking map, 4 rows does not make it stronger. You're just
it
fucking...
looks like it does, but it does not.
Yeah, you're just perforating the leather. So, like, you've got to be uniform with it. Like, when we talk about, like, some of the P&Ws that know how to stitch straight, the stitching is not the primary bond mechanism. It's the glue. Glues have come a long fucking way in 100 years. The stitching is the backup. But if you're going to perforate the fuck out of it, that glue can't do shit. It's just going to tear. So, we don't want to... We want our napkins to tear across the perforation. We do not want our boots to tear across the perforation. So, do got to get it straight. Otherwise, it just becomes perforation. But I like these. Like I said, a slightly taller heel, arched last. Man, I'm fucking down. 100%. Truman has some like nicer in between. Like these are these ones at Truman sources. They're stronger than the like pot metal Viberg ones that bend, but they're not exactly like the studs. Truman does do the stud ones too. But like these are a nice in between. I'm down for that. Like I said, I don't think Truman necessarily makes a bad product. I just wish they had high arch lasts, personally. So, anything you think I missed, Jeff?
No, you covered everything.
Okay. All right. So just as a disclaimer going forward, the rest of these boots, as of when he sent all these over, none of these are worn. These are all his quote-unquote Christmas boots. They're all unworn. There may be a quick 5-minute tryout, and they were all back in their boxes until Christmas where he could open them. And we're going to start with his new motorcycle boots, the Stationmasters. So these are his new motorcycle riding boots. These are Nick's Stationmasters in 10-inch. They are H&W last. He makes a note that we prefer Frank's for P&W brands. Frank's does not make an engineer yet, so that wasn't even possible. He is partial to Nick's, but he's only owned one boot from him in H&W, and it might be he does make a comment. Their social media presence, they're larger and more like louder social media presence versus the lack of presence from others might be why. He did like his Falcons, but they weren't tall enough, and he sold it for that reason. Fit seems good. He has no signs of heel slip. Several comments that the H&W is not a good engineer last. It's quite simply because the pattern doesn't match up with the engineer very well. But to be fair, they do increase the heel a little bit to try to make it work better. But yeah, so he has not worn these except around the house, and these are his new motorcycle boots. They are a V-bar, which I could get down with. I think as a motorcycle boot, maybe a lug wouldn't have been such a bad idea, but I could see a V-bar being a reason too.
I think it's the first time I've ever seen Nick's use the V-bar heel.
We were just talking shit on that last episode. You were 100% right. They use the quad bog just like whites for everything. We were literally just talking shit on that. Huh. Yeah. You are 100% right. I have... I lie. You remember the olive bison mock toes that I have?
Yeah.
Those do have that. I actually just sold those to David. Those just hit the mail today to go to David. Hey, David, if you're watching, well, you already know this. I already sent you the receipt, but I did sell those to David, and those are on the way to him for work. He does stuff with 7-Eleven corporate with building stores and outfitting new stores.
So he doesn't like having an arch? He has a flat foot? Why did you choose the H&W?
I don't think he has any arched boots at all. I haven't seen any so far yet, at least. Because all the Vibergs are flat style. No, those are arched. I haven't seen a single arched boot yet. Telling you, man.
Yeah, but he didn't have a choice on those. He had a choice on these.
True. Tim, my man. Bob. Reach out to Bob. Bob's stuff is very well priced. If you want to try one out, Bob might even give you a deal. Reach out to Bob on Instagram. He's very responsive. Get you a pair of Bobs, like insoles or something. Try out the arch. The arch is the way to go. Here, I'm going to let you see my face so you can see me say this. Arch is life. Arch is what you want.
At least for 90% of the people. I mean, you could be that 10%.
Even if you are, there's this guy named Dustin, or Dustin, fucking goddamn it. Come on, Mike, stop being an idiot. Dennis from Custom Craft, he has an in-between last that's perfectly balanced that I'm wearing right now called the 69 last that is not arched, but it's perfectly foot balanced, so it has a feel like an arch. And he can make an engineer out of it. Find the arch. You can do it. Telling you, your life will never be the same. Anyway, going back. Yes, we were talking shit. They are using the V-bar hero. They're also using the fully black V-bar, which I think you have to pay extra money for no reason. I mean, these look pretty good. I'm gonna be honest. Usually I can find some quick flaws in Nick's QA stuff. These don't look bad so far. Like, the cut top is a little janky, but you picked a cut top, so that's kind of par for the course. But the dual outsole stitch looks good. The gapping looks good. So for I'm gonna pull this back up for a second. For those that don't know, and we've talked about this repeatedly, I had like 5 pairs of Nicks in a row that all needed something fucking fixed. And the one pair that I let Nicks fix and I didn't send to Frank's to fix got the upper sanded and a bunch of edge stain put on it.
Where it didn't belong.
Oh yeah. It was on the heel counter cover, not on the edge. Like the edge stain made it on the heel counter cover. And they hit the upper in 2 different spots with the sander. The QA over there has got to get better. They even posted on the PNWU asking, like, hey, why are people not choosing Nicks over the other guys? QA and wait times were hands down the winner by a fucking mile. A country mile at that. So the fact that I'm not seeing anything that's sticking out so far is a fucking miracle. Because I literally can give you 5 different examples. I had those ones that got the edge staining on them, they had to remake twice. Once they were 2 different heights, and I had to call them 6 months later when they didn't get them back into production. Like it was insane. But so far, I'm not seeing any problems with these, so that's a miracle. Heel counter covers aren't exactly even, but it's close enough. The edges are are sanded nice too. Like, yeah, hey, you fucking won this one, man. Tim, on this one, you won. Like, usually Nicks are riddled with QA problems. This pair actually looks pretty fucking good. Minus the wonky top cut, but that's what happens when you do the natural top cut. A little bit of loose grain in the upper, but you'll live. It's a motorcycle boot. I mean, they look good. I mean, you should have got the arch, but they look good. Okay, I lied. This one's lasted a little twisted, but that's lovable. As you can see, kind of see how it bows here a little bit.
Yeah.
No, so it did last a little twisted. Or that actually could be a sewing error, actually. But anyway.
Oh, and especially considering the fact that you said he hasn't worn them. Look at the vamp on the left.
He wore them for 5 minutes.
Look at the vamp on the left. Go down.
Oh yeah. Well, if you look on that one too, look, he got a nasty shaft too. See right there. There's loose grain in his shaft as well. He minus clicking errors. The stitching all looks good, especially around that area, around the crown of the vamp. I mean, for a pair of Nicks, you besides the fact that you lost a little bit in the Chrome XL category, you won on this pair. I could easily show you 10 pairs that have significantly more flaws. No problem. And those are his new motorcycle boots. So as we're getting closer to spring now, Tim, I don't think you're riding yet, but brother, you got to let us know how these do. Like, the taller boots will definitely help you out with the wind stuff. Let us know how this works out. Like, we're actually genuinely curious on this one. You didn't mention anything about structured toe. I hope you got a structured toe.
Canada in February, he's got to have a lot of heated gear.
You know what? He's from Canada. Maybe he's got, like that cold resistance +2. I mean, I can't say anything right now. In real time in Kansas, I don't think he's heated gear up right now. So in real time, it is a February day in Kansas right now, right? Right now in Kansas, it is 11, feels like -4. On whatever day this happens to be. I'm not going to date the episode, but it's 11, feels like -4. Last week, it felt like -15.
I've got heated gear. He could have heated gear.
I don't think there's enough heated gear.
I don't know how much snow that they've
15.
got. No matter how warm it is, he probably doesn't want to ride if there's salt in the ground. I wouldn't either.
Funny thing is, Friday we just got 6 inches of snow. I don't know if you guys gotten snow recently, Jeff? I know we did. You did. You just got snow 2 days ago. We just fucking talked about that. Yeah, it snowed Friday, and it snowed Sunday. So we've got like 11 inches of powder sitting out there right now.
It missed us today. We got just all day rain. and we're supposed to get snow in 3 days.
We are too. Oh, sorry, 4 days. You guys get it Wednesday, and we're supposed to have it Thursday. Same storm.
So weird. It's not usually the direction it heads, I thought.
I think it's the pressure system, because our snow will come from Montana, but that pressure system allows that whole system to pull its way in. So, but yeah. It's been a snowy year. I think we're up to like 52 inches so far this year. And usually like 52 to 60 is about the end, and we have a solid possibility of breaking 75, 80 inches so far like this year, no problem.
More snow this year than the last 3 or 4 put together, really. It's quite a bit.
So, sorry for the interlude, people. Didn't anyone teach you at work that you're supposed to use the weather to small talk? Alrighty, keeping this moving.
Goody.
Yeah.
What we got next?
Well, these are the donkey punchers, which are these are a combination monkey, but they're the P&W like White's Cutter style monkey. So the donkey punchers are a little different than their monkey boots. So they do have the stitching in front of the toe. This last is a little different. So this is the 120 last. And even though they're 9.5E, they feel narrower than the other 9.5D monkey boots, which makes sense because it's a doubled up vamp with the stitching. But this particular 120 last compared to the 110 last that was the other one is narrower, even with the width wider. He said the regular donkey punchers don't appeal to him, but he couldn't say no to this taller shaft, which he's right. So this one is a special edition that is made out of a deer called Enzo Shika, which is a deer from the Japanese northern region. These donkey punchers are normally 6 inches. This is actually an 8-inch pair that they only did with this leather, and I think they did once in the past as well, but they don't normally do these in 8 inches. He did make a comment that even though these are the stud style, these don't have sharp edges like his the Shinky horse rump monkey boots do, which he did like. He did say that he expected a lot more scars on it, and that maybe wild Japanese deer have it easy compared to kudu. And I will agree with that, because this is a half sole. I do like the fact they did. It's not a true Puritan stitch, because usually the Puritan stitch has white in the middle with like black or something on the outside. They did white on the outside with a dark brown on the inside. So it is a Puritan stitch, but it's like an inverse Puritan stitch. Do like the fact that they did the larger eyelets. Do like the half sole. I'm not a huge fan of this staining right here. I'd prefer this to be natural so I can slather all kinds of preservatives on it instead, but whatever. It is a actual storm welt. It's minus this one part right here where they got way too fucking close. It's executed pretty well. Do like the fact that they use the V-bar heel. The kilties that go with it are kind of cool. I'm assuming these came with the Lofgrens. They're bunching a little bit, so you need to probably trim them just a smidge. Just hollow out the inside in between the eyelets to give it room to spread out. Kind of hollow out the front a little bit. A little bit of X-Acto knife work. They'll look a little better. I do like that you used leather laces. Okay, here we go. This shows it better. So see, it's like a chocolate Puritan stitch with a white. That's exact opposite. Usually you would do chocolate on the outside with white on the inside for a Puritan stitch, but it is meant to mimic a Puritan stitch.
It's very nice.
I will say this side right here in the highlight, I do like the kind of like character that comes into it. I mean, it's not scars like kudu, and let's be honest, kudu would probably be cooler. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do like that this last does look to be a little bit higher arched. It's a little bit higher heel compared to the other one. This is the 120 versus that 110 you showed earlier. They do have a cool like backstay that I think we're gonna get to, which is kind of neat. Yeah, I'm a fan of this. So this looks a lot like the way Brian the bootmaker does his backstays. I'm a fan of this. I like this. One thing I will call out is instead of a logger heel, I do like, instead of doing a logger heel, they did what's called a bevel spoon heel, which is like what Gabbard from Creosote uses a lot. Brian the Bootmaker does too. It's kind of a dressier version of a logger that with nowhere near as deep of an undercut. Makes a lot more sense with this kind of boot, especially with a taller toe box and whatnot. And you're right. I do think the volume of the heel of this one does make a lot more sense compared to the other ones I've seen. One call I will call is this deer is clearly soft enough you can see his counter in there. Kind of see how it has a nasty edge across the counter.
Yeah.
The counter's kind of protruding a little too much. But I mean, shit happens. I do like the rolled top, which you can really only see in this picture here, and then one of these other ones up here. Do like that they use the rolled top. That does allow you to do a logger knot, which I don't think is necessary here, but it's cool because this is more of a logger style monkey boot. But yeah, I'm curious what the temper of this is. They look really soft, which I'm going to say probably should have been kudu instead of this, but what's your thought? I clearly, with how much the shaft is falling over and it's not been worn, this has to be very soft.
Certainly softer. Yeah. But it's a deer. Yeah. So.
I'm gonna pull us up so you can see our faces. So for some context on this, in the past, Lofgren has done deer engineers and stuff where they've doubled up on the deer to make literally almost 11 ounces of leather, and it still falls over on itself. So I will say this: if you're going to use something like deer or something extremely soft like that, it does need to be a laced boot. You cannot do a slip-on boot with something that soft. So
lined with something else.
Well, you could do that too. This doesn't look like particularly heavily lined. You can't see in it very well, but I don't see anything that makes me think it's got a particularly thick liner, because it's kind of like that same dark color. But who knows? Something lined with something stiffer would be helpful, but you could tell by how it's falling over on itself, it is definitely not. So, alrighty. So next we have something a little bit more near and dear to my heart. Yeah, so this is another Wabash, which is the engineer, and Badalassi Carlo cognac. So this is the Minerva. This is the smooth Minerva. I thought for a second it might have been the box, but I think it's just a kind of wrinklier pair of Minerva. So you've seen a lot of Badalassi on the channel so far of the waxy and the Pueblo style, whether it be a jacket, boot, so on and so forth, because I have two pair of Pueblo boots. I have a Pueblo jacket, and I have a pair of waxy boots. You've also seen a ton of the Badalassi Carlo waxy kilties in a ton of my boots. I have Dale stamp them out for me. I think that's probably the perfect kilty leather. I use it in a ton. Jeff has, I'm gonna pull it so you can see our faces. Jeff has a couple that I've had sent to him where he got it without the holes punched in, of the waxies as well, of red, green, I think a couple other colors.
Only got the red.
It's only the red. Was it the Merriam horse rump that was the green then?
I don't have any horse rump kilties.
Maybe I sent it to Art then. I might have had to mail it to Art, but I've had Dale punch a ton of it out. But the waxy, the Badalassi Carlo waxy is kind of, honestly, the perfect kilty leather. It is stiff where it needs to be.
Does Art do his own hole?
Huh?
Does Art do his own holes?
I think he does, yeah. But I think it's also because he's a size 13.
Yeah, red is definitely the only ones that I have, and we had done it because we got those
red, white, and
blue boots with the white stitching and all, so we were trying to go for the whole red, white, and blue.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the Badalassi Carlo waxy, at least in my opinion, is the perfect kilty leather. Minerva, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, is a fantastic fucking jacket leather. So much so that Greg actually switched from doing mostly Shinky to more Badalassi Carlo. He's still doing Shinky and black, but any of the other colors are almost exclusively being done in Badalassi Carlo Minerva. As you can tell, this boot stands up well on itself. It's not like the galosh isn't like flopping over on itself. The uppers look good. Like I said, this looks to be a little bit more of a wrinkly pair, especially off that belt. So there is some defects in this leather, but I mean, overall, it's holding up on itself well. You can tell he hasn't worn it yet. Did he give me any specific notes on this one? Yeah, he didn't. He did no notes on it. He wore them for 5 minutes, which shows because you can tell by the stitch on the bottom. I do like that. I mean, I know this stitch is worthless and it doesn't do anything. Just like, you know, when you get leather soles painted in cool colors on the bottom, does nothing because you just walk it off. I like that detail, personally. I'm going to bring our faces up. Those kind of details matter to me. So, like, on all the ones that Flora's done for me, I have her do something cool with the bottom, even though it gets walked off. I think it's cool. I know that the first time I wear it, it's going to get fucked up. I'm 100% aware. I also like cool shit being done to my stuff. So, here we are. So.
Details.
I mean, once again, it's fucking cake decoration, but you know what? My fucking cake is cool till you cut the first piece.
You're right.
It's just one of those weird things. I understand for people like, man, that's just such a waste. You are right. It is. But I think it's fucking cool. So.
Like you said with the cake, it's not.
Yep.
And look how many people do fancy cakes all the time.
Absolutely.
Makes me different.
This is another pair that, like I said, the toes look good on this one. The outsole stitching on this one looks really good. I don't see any defect. I mean, I see some bigger gaps on some sides than others, but you know what? I'd rather see a little extra. I know it's kind of counterintuitive. I'm going to bring our faces up again. It's kind of counterintuitive to traditional bootmaking where you want it to be as narrow as possible. But I would much rather have a little bit of extra there than you almost hit fucking stitches. So right. While it goes against traditional bootmaking, much bigger fan of not seeing stitches almost be hit. And that's what we're seeing a lot more of here. It's a little tight, like in this one spot right here, but it's not that bad. So this looks good. Like the overall stitch count looks good. I mean, it's a little wrinkly. I would almost think it was Minerva box if it wasn't for the vamp and the heel counter. So it's a little more wrinkly Minerva than usual, but I like the color. This one's executed well. The heights are concentric. The cuts and angles are correct. Like this one was done really well overall. The stitching's all really good. The outsole stitching on this one's fantastic. This is a little wrinkly on the inside, but it's on the medial side, so whatever. You're not going to see that. I mean, I mean, these are probably more expensive than they should be for Badalassi Carlo. I bet you paid close to $1,100 for these, but I mean, that's a fucking win in my book.
These are super.
Yeah, I mean, sure. like I said, you know, they did the right sole staining. The heel looks good. You won the stitching battle hands down. I mean, these two triangles aren't perfectly equal, but they're pretty fucking close. This is a win. I mean, I think this one might actually look better than your Shinky pair above, honestly. At least in terms of fit and finish. So. Next we have... Okay, so this is going to be another Truman Upland. It's going to be another 8-inch style, and this is in Stone Rambler with the 79 last structured toe. This one is lined. It was an unexpected purchase, but it was a Black Friday sale that got him.
New texture.
Yeah, well, this is a Stone Rambler. He did say the Truman stamp seems to be controversial, but it's well executed. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see this Truman problems that a lot of people have. They had some shit problems back in the day, a long time ago. This is like the 2019 timeframe. I think they've got a lot of that corrected out. I don't think that's something to worry about. He bought these mainly for winter. At least that's how he justified himself. He does have one nitpick with these, and I'll point it out here in a second. So it does look like when they rounded the corner, I'm gonna zoom down to this real quick. When they rounded the corner on these, they did like very much increase the density and then spread it back out. I don't know if they just went too slow around the corner or what, but they did not get the gaps even around the toes. Like they went from like, 6-7 stitches per inch to like Viberg levels back to 6 to 7 stitches per inch around the outsole stitch. That's one nitpick. He does make a comment that he should send the pictures to Vince and ask for a refund to see how much it pisses him off, because Vince does blow off the handle like that. Tim clearly has a sense of humor. I mean, this is a good pair. Stone, like, I'm back to our faces again. I'm gonna be honest with everybody. Rambler is an unexpectedly strong leather that is very good for work. If you are not in a super duper abrasive environment, you might be shocked at how good Rambler is for you. Now, going back to these, like I said, Stone Rambler is a nice pick. It's got good highs and lows. This pair seems to be executed quite well. I don't think I would have done a lug sole. But, this is the style of boot the lug sole does make sense on. You've got good toes. The toe caps are executed pretty well. The uppers line up quite well. I mean, like I said, I could nitpick about these a little bit, but the same internal gap exists on both of them. So, like, whatever process they're doing it, they're following it to a T that's equally getting them not even, which is fine since they look even. Pull loop looks good. I do like the way they integrate the pull loop with the backstay, where it gets some extra stitching support. It is Rambler, so just like the deer earlier, you are going to see the heel counter cover a little bit, which would be nice if that was executed just a smidge better, but is what it is. I mean, overall, I think this is a pretty good pair. Like you've avoided a ton of the QA issues that Truman normally has, which once again at its price point is what it is. Like, these are like $500 boots, and that's going to sound like one of these things. I'm gonna bring this up on screen again. That's going to sound like one of these things that's like, oh, they're $500 boots, like they should be fucking perfect. If you see the price of P&W boots, like $750 to $800 is a going rate. $500 is like Thursday pricing at this point for P&W. So, I mean, at their price point, this is pretty on par. Like, I'm not seeing anything super egregious. They have much better hardware than a lot of the other guys. Stitching on this pair actually looks pretty good overall. I mean, the toe cap is equally uneven on both, so it's consistent. So at least looks good from that perspective. I mean, and do you see anything I'm missing? I mean, I don't like the Truman lug sole so much because it says Truman Boot Company on it, but like, how often are we looking at the bottom of our boots too at the same time? Like I said, I think I still would have done like a V-bar or something here instead, but whatever. I mean, if I had to nitpick one thing, and Truman does this regularly, their edging here from the welt to the midsole transition is kind of rough, but every pair is rough. So this one's, I think the yellow outsole stitch is kind of a cool theme. Like, it's something, I think this is the second pair we've seen of that. So, I mean, am I missing anything, Jeff?
No, I didn't see anything missed.
Yeah, I mean, overall, pretty cool.
Pull loop is nice.
And I think the way they execute the pull loop is cool too. It's reinforced in a couple different areas that aren't over the top of each other. So I'm gonna bring this up here. One of the biggest problems with pull loops is a lot of brands like to overlap the stitches, where they stitch it once on the inside, and then when they stitch it across the outside, they stitch over the same holes. That is a perforation problem that could be a fucking disaster. If those holes don't line up perfectly and it does punch new holes, that pull loop is going to tear, guaranteed. The fact that they've stitched it here and then stitched it down here is actually one of the much better options. And the only brands that I've seen that do that, besides Truman, that don't line them up that way, are White's and Frank's. So Frank does 2 on the inside here, and then they immediately offset half down for the next one. Whereas White's does them here and then goes way the fuck down here to do the rest of them. And both of those are way better options than trying to line stitch holes up. Because once again, the second you miss, it is now a perforation. It is not a stitch hole anymore. So that's a big call. I do think that is an attention to detail that is worth noting. Because a lot of people just try to go over top of each other. He does have some stuff here. So, usually we give out a Grail boot here. So he does have some notes on his Grail boot. And don't worry, Tim. We're still going to give you a Grail boot. And it's probably not going to be what you expect. Because I know exactly what you need already. But anyway, let me read your stuff. So he doesn't think his Grail boots exist. I disagree. He's wanted a Nix officer for years. Officer in brown horse belt like Merriam or Macchiato. H&W V-bar, no pull loop, natural edge would be his natural edge would be his boot bliss. Well, let me tell you, they did so bad with Merriam on the one run Nix did, they will never do horse butt again. So that is definitely a pipe dream. That said, not Grail, but close enough. He has ordered officers that will be brown Italian cypress with a natural edge. The Truman, they call it the Truman Northwest last. It's that fucking, oh my God. Munson, there you go. I was like, holy fuck, I'm blanking it. Unstructured toe, no pull loop, V-bar should be ready April 2025. He chose Thurman to try that out. Might change to H&W. My man, Arch. Arch.
Yeah, I'd like to know why he really seems to be against Arch.
No. He says Nix doesn't offer Merriam. They have, my man. I've shown pictures on our channel somewhere here of me with a fucking butter knife showing how bad their Merriam went. It was terrible. They will never do it again because they cracked it so much and they had a hard time with it. Which makes no sense to me because fucking Franks and Wesco do it no problem. Like Franks has continued offering it because it sold so well. Actually, if you were to go ask Michelle right now, so they've done Shinky for me and a couple other horse rumps. They were shocked at how much they like the Italian horse rump, that they've decided to keep it long term. So they should be able to do Merriam. But you have options, my man, especially if you're thinking just an officer boot. That's just an 8-inch plain toe boot. You have another company that will make that 8-inch plain toe boot for you. It does exist, right, as of right now. Especially with the V-bar, H&W, V-bar, no pull loop, natural edge. They could literally make that boot for you, no problem. 100%. He might change his officer to a engineer, Stationmaster engineer. At some point, a Merriam engineer would be pretty badass. I'm being entirely honest. He would consider it if Frank would make it, but he has to give it some thought because he doesn't need another boot or two. I will let you know. They've announced an engineer. Don't hold your breath. We are still waiting. We are a year and 3 months since it was announced. Year and 4 months. Somebody right? It's supposed to be
in 2 months.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a mock toe in there somewhere that was announced a month or two before that we haven't seen yet either. When you see my Crazy Cow couple green mock toes from Frank's, you will know that at least that model came out. Till then, we'll see.
They've been slammed. They had some big personnel, one big personnel problem. Employee dying of cancer.
Well, and then you had their key bottomer just decide he could leave whenever he wanted to.
So they've had some issues, but yes, they are planning the mock and the engineer in that order. We just don't know when. They shouldn't have said it out loud.
That is definitely the case.
I don't think I have Grail at this point. I think I'd have to have Grail in the future. I'd like to see two things first. I would like to see an arched boot because I can't figure out why you're not doing it. You don't have one yet. Of all the boots that you bought, it seems like you would have given one of them a shot to see what you think. So I'd like to see you get an arched boot, a 55, an 11067, or a 1977. And secondly, for as much as you like no arch, it seems like you should have a pair of Wesco.
Oh yeah, especially a pair of engineers in the boss. Okay, so funny story. I haven't showed these yet, but I did get them recently. I have a pair of Wescos with bobs, adding arch in them. They're the standard Boss Last, even though it's made in a Mr. Lou style with the stitching. It is Boss Last. And I have a pair that they've done a custom insole rise that works just like a Bob's Last, and it feels very similar to Bob's Last. So I have a Wesco made arched boot, maybe one of the first ones I've ever done, I don't know, and one that I've mated out of Bob's. So they could literally do both. So that is the thing. And I know Jeff's had issues with it, but both of my custom last Wescos have come out perfect.
They told me that they would do an arched boot for me. So I think they have done it before, but I have never known or heard of an actual pair other than yours.
Yep. I sent you
they got it right for you. I wish they had gotten it right for me.
That ain't no shit. I sent the picture. You could see. So Jeff's seen the picture, but I have a picture where you could see the sliver where they've added the piece in there that essentially kind of looks like a lineman shank that was hollowed out. That's higher in the front than in the back. That goes under it. That does basically exactly what Bob's insoles do. I mean, honestly, if Bob's insoles or the Delta Arch had existed when I ordered that pair 2 years ago, I wouldn't have bothered because I would have just stuck that in since Wescos are already sized to have an insole piece anyway. Now I do have some. So for my Grail boot, so Jeff mentions his Grail boot, which is basically kind of anything with a 55, to be entirely honest, or at least any 55, 1106.7, 1977, whatever. We didn't mention it, but 4811 too.
Yes. Sorry.
My Grail boot for you is very simple. You seem to like engineers a lot. My Grail boot for you is the creosote parlor ska or fiction. If you want belt or no belt, like that's the holy grail, my man. It is the engineer boot.
It is.
Like you've got Stationmasters. Fucking, you'd look way cooler. I'm gonna show his motorcycle. By the way, I have a picture of his motorcycle. I will show that. You're gonna look way fucking cooler in some like fucking rust colored, or hell, fucking even since your motorcycle's all blacked out, even blue Parlor Scar Engineers. I will have blue Parlor Scar Engineers this year to show you guys. So let's get on to it. All right. So he did send me some kind of like fun pictures. So I talked about the quality control. They did kind of fuck up the heels on his next Stationmasters. You can kind of see how like kind of equally out of whack they are. So I don't know who is cross-eyed here, but you see they get close on the right side on both and have a really wide gap on both sides. So as you can see, whoever did this clearly started each boot from the same side and made it equally wide. So they've got to be like cross-eyed or something. And then here's him on his 883 iron. This is in Ontario, I believe.
Looks low. Looks nice.
So he mentioned it was an 883 iron, and I think it was a 1200 kit. Let me double check that. Hold on.
Makes sense. The tank is not a 1200 tank, but yeah.
883 with a 1200 kit. Yep. It's up in the boot section too. So this is
great looking bike.
Yep. This is his blacked out 883 iron with this half helmet in Ontario. That's a lot of. I didn't notice this till recently. That's a lot of fucking graffiti on that rock. That is not natural. That is color.
Fucking up the landscape.
Wow, they actually graffitied the fucking road. God damn. I didn't notice that before.
Well, he might not be in Canada. Maybe he took it right down.
Let me see if he told me where this was. I think he said this was in Canada. Oh no, this is taken so this is taken off Highway 44 in Pennsylvania.
I was gonna guess Pennsylvania only because I was thinking about that road that nobody's allowed to be on. What's that road?
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it.
Shut down because it's been on fire for like.
There's a fire brewing under the town. I know what you're talking about. It's near Hershey, Pennsylvania, but I can't remember what the name of it is. Yeah, that coal mine caught on fire.
A video game named after it, didn't they?
I think so. Yeah, I can't remember what the name of it is, but I think you're right. Here, let's Google it here.
That was the first thing I thought of when I saw the graffiti on the road.
Centralia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Centralia. There you go.
Oh, we can't see it in the picture, but he has a solo side bag and a handlebar behind the front wheel that you can't see.
Oh,
he did mention.
His gun in there?
He didn't say anything about that, but well, no, probably not, because in Canada they're not allowed to own guns. Didn't anybody
He's
tell
not
you?
in Canada.
Well, yeah, but he lives in Canada.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Well, but didn't he tell you, like they did an AR-15 buyback in Canada to get back that they haven't bought a single gun back from in 4 years, and it's cost them like $12 million. He did mention that his bike is dynoed at 75 horsepower and 76 foot-pounds of torque at the rear wheel. So, for anyone who's curious. But there is a solo side bag and a handle. You can kind of see the handlebar bar a little bit in the picture right there. But there is a solo side bag on the other side. Oh, yeah. It's down here at the bottom. It's down here in this picture. Yeah. That must be part of the entertainment system. It does, but I'm pretty sure it's a bag because it's got buckles on it. Yeah, that's a bag.
Oh, you would have buckles holding your blanket together too.
I'm pretty sure it's a bag. So, but yeah. Anyway, everybody, that is Tim's collection. This one went a little bit longer than part 1, but there was no reason to break it into a part 3 for a 20-minute episode. So, I hope everybody enjoyed. Like I said, we covered quite a few boots in this. Now, keep in mind, Tim bought all of these from 2022 to 2025. And, he did a large sell-off in 22 to kind of pare his collection down to something he would wear every day, essentially. Even though we have seen some pairs that, obviously he just got back in December that haven't been worn yet. If we had, pictures that were updated into the current month of February that, we would probably actually have, ones with wear on them. So, like, comment, subscribe. We mentioned at the beginning, especially now that you've seen the whole thing. And let us know what you think of splitting some of these bigger collections into 2 parts. We're kind of two minds here on this one with, will anybody actually watch part 2? We don't know. So this was our first kind of test to see if we split these in half. Because we've had a couple collections that have gone like over the 2.5 hour mark. They're like, man, this really should be like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 episodes. So this was kind of like our test to see, like, will people watch the second one or not? So you'll have to let us know if you did or not.
Till next time.
Yep. See you on the next one.
Bye.